this is something that I'm quite passionate about because it's a way of you guys buying cars now, using them as dailies now. But if you buy the right ones, which we will do a much bigger feature on this when James comes up, we'll do a film together. Um, Advising you on which cars to buy, which may appreciate or very well could appreciate in the future, i.e., negating the cost of buying and running that car over the next 3 or 4 years. And if you are able, if you've got the space, say you buy something for 4 or 5 thousand quid today, and you run it for 4 or 5 years, and you enjoy it. Maybe your mileage isn't too high. Maybe you put another 40, 50,000 miles on it so you can put it away with somewhere between 80 and 100,000 miles on the clock, hopefully, maybe a touch more. But you leave it there, just start it occasionally. We teach you how to store it properly. But in 5, 10 years' time, that car will appreciate and it will be worth more. And if you are passionate about cars, it's not a problem to keep it because you'll keep enjoy driving it. But there is a way to buy a car and actually have it net cost zero. James, that's our new thing. We're not doing net zero, we're doing net cost zero.
Oh, okay.
So actually, if you want to sell it in 5 years after that or sell it in the future, you can buy something that will grow in value rather than depreciate. I mean, there's loads of examples I could give you right now. An E46 M3 is a fantastic example.
Hmm.
7, 8 years ago, that car was 7 or 8 grand. Now it's 20, 25 grand for a half decent one. They have gone up in value. All right, not massively cheap to run, but again, if you're watching us, then there's a good chance you're interested in cars. Um, that's just one example. There are loads of other examples. Older cars that have become classic. If you want a top tip on how to figure out which cars are going to be more desirable in the future, just Google them, see if they've got half decent reports, see if people like them, see if they're popular, and then go on to howmanyleft.com and exactly that, see how many are left. And then the lower the number, the more desirable they are. And then you can predict what's going to be better in the future. We will do a bigger piece on this, and James and I do a bit of research and figure out which ones are going to be better in the future. But there is a possibility that you can buy something now, drive it around for 3, 4, 5 years, trouble free, just maintain it as you would do a normal car, and then store it for a few years and then cash in then.
But
Very satisfying way of owning a car.
absolutely. But the fundamental thing is buy a car and expect to lose everything because it
Yeah.
should always be something that you want to buy. There's, as you probably remember, Bradley, at the end of the 80s, that's what people did. They bought cars that they didn't particularly want. They bought E-types and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then there was a great big bubble, and lots of people lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it was their own fault because they didn't really like the cars. They may not have been car enthusiasts, or they just bought the wrong cars because that's what they were told to get. So always at Future Proof Cars, we're going to pick cars that we like first and foremost. And if they go up by accident or design, that's great.
Yeah. However, James, I would temper that and say that those idiots that just got into, and that's one of the reasons it's crashed because there's a load of people that speculated and weren't actually enthusiasts. So they speculated, they spent loads of money on these cars, then it crashed, and then they basically shit themselves trying to jump out of it and lost a load of dough.
Mm.
If they'd have held on to that car for 10 years, just shoved it away, they'd have probably made money in the end. Um, so yeah, um, it is a bit cyclical, and the cars that tend to go up in value and are really popular are the ones that are bought by people between the ages of 40 and 55, 60, that love them back when they were kids. Maybe their dad had one or their mom had one. So, they get to a certain age and they've made a few quid, and then all of a sudden everybody's trying to buy the same cars, hence value goes up.
Yeah. Yeah, would I
That's,
say at the moment, certainly prices for classic cars are extremely soft.
yeah,
Um,
that's
uh,
softening.
Yeah, so actually, if you want to buy the car that you always promise yourself, now is probably the best time to do it. But also bear in mind, yeah, what Bradley's saying is correct, is that a lot of 90s cars and late 80s cars are very popular because of what the age people are now. Whereas actually, some of the classics from the 60s and 70s, because everybody's dying off now from that era, aren't so easy to place. So yeah, it is sort of modern classics is where we will put our money at the moment.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Plus the fact they're much more usable and more fun.
Mm.
When you start going, when you start going older than mid to late 80s on cars, they're not especially nice to drive. You have to, some of them are, but the cheaper end of the classic car market, like MGs and stuff like that. I mean, I've driven them and I thought they were bloody awful, quite frankly. Um, I'm going to get slated for that. You probably love them, don't you?
No, I mean I would agree with you completely. Is that yeah, an old Jag? I mean a nice XJ6. I mean you're not going to go wrong
I
with it.
love it. Yeah, I
Whereas
love
Whereas you see, people will say to, oh, a Hillman Avenger. No, Hillman's Avengers are terrible cars.
absolute shitbox.
There is a sort of a sort of an ironic classic where lots of people go on, oh, they're great. These cars from the 70s. No, I was around in the 70s. They were terrible cars, really, really bad cars. They didn't last. Cars only last about 10 years if you were lucky. A high
Yeah,
car. They could just about do it. So anything that survives from then, has maybe been rebuilt a few times or it's just been kept in a garage. But actually, yeah, the actual experience of them is not great. They're terrible to drive. The brakes are awful. Just everything about it. I mean, you can feel cool in it, and it's great if we keep a few going, because that's our history. But if you want a driving experience and driving fun, no, they're not as good. And maybe we will, if we can come across some stuff that we can pick up cheaply, we might do that and just show you how terrible they are.
yes. Yes, let's buy a couple of shit boxes, do a road trip. We'll get 4 miles down the road, break down, and that'll be the end of it. Um, if I was looking at 80s and 90s cars to buy, keep, enjoy, and I really do mean enjoy, I wouldn't be looking far past Japan, if I'm completely honest. The Japanese stuff from the 80s and 90s was just so far ahead of anything that Europe was putting out. It was ridiculous. I mean, I remember my old man ran V12 Jags in the 80s, and I convinced him to buy because of the company that the magazine that you work for, Autocar, did a group test on the Lexus LS400 and the Mercedes 500 SEL and the BMW 750 IL and the Jag at the time. And the Lexus absolutely destroyed them in a group test. And my dad was like, if it hasn't got 12 cylinders, I'm not driving it. He was a proper snoot about his cars back then. And I convinced him to take a test drive in the Lexus. He refused. So I actually rang the Lexus dealer when I was 13, got the Lexus dealer to deliver a car on our drive, and he begrudgingly drove it. And then he didn't get out of it for 2 days, and then he refused to let the demonstrator go back and sent his V12 Jag back to the Lexus dealer as a Part X instead. And then that was the start of 3 Lexuses on the bounce, and he absolutely loved them. And as you probably guessed, I've just bought one the other day. So yeah, big fan of Lexus. They're just bloody brilliant cars. All right, they might not be the most emotive and soulful cars, but if you want something that just does a job and does it brilliantly, there really isn't much else better than that, to be quite honest.
No, absolutely. So yeah, that's inside information from the people at Future Proof Cars. Please don't share this around because this is highly top secret stuff,
Yeah.
and we wouldn't want to,
God,
we wouldn't
absolutely.
want we wouldn't want to affect the market because we know that what we say today affects it tomorrow. So just be very
Yeah.
careful how you share that.
All 7 of our subscribers.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Right.
Uh,
Other Japanese cars while we're on that.
mm,
Mark IV Supras, Mazda RX-7s, Skyline, the original Skyline R32. That is on my list, and they are. Do you know what? They're sensible money, James. They're not crazy money. They're not the six-figure cars. You can get a good one for high 20s, early 30s. I know that's a lot of money, but it is reachable if you work a little bit harder. Make the kids drive them. Make the kids get the bus pass instead of buying them a car. Pretty soon, you can. Yeah, but R32 is right at the top of my list. I really want one of those.
yeah.
So if anybody's got one and it's going cheap, let me know. Please like and subscribe.